Hello, welcome to the Low Code Cafe. This is episode number 168 for August 14, 2024. Today we're going to continue the discussion about streamlining alerts with low code doing user notification through an activity log system. We'll get into that and continue from where we left off last time, but first let me introduce the team here. I am Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plantinap. Patrick Anderson is riding shotgun. He is Technical Success Manager for Plantinap. This is an event that we do every other Wednesday at 10 o'clock Central Time this hour. And the goal is to continue to educate our community about our product and what you can do with it. So we do a lot of updates and demos and hands-on low coding. That's the biggest part of what we try to do here. They're all recorded and they're out on YouTube. So youtube.com/plantinap will get you 168 hours of training content plus other content that we put out there as well. Today's agenda is pretty straightforward. I'll do a few discussions about from the trenches of support, tell you what's going on and with the product in general, and then we'll dive into our low coding segment and get hands-on with the product. Do engage with us. There's a chat window. There's question and answers. You can raise your hand and get in on the discussion. But when it's all over, there's a feedback form. As I mentioned, this is presented every other week. So our next live webinar will be 2 weeks from now, August 28th. So from the trenches of support, we released version 126 on June 14. So it's starting to be, let's see, we're just at 2 months now. We did what we call a minimum dependency update. So for those of you who adopted earlier, you jumped and got a lot of hot fixes all in one required screen. But now, since then, we've released 4 hot fixes, and today we'll talk about 12 more. So a lot of them are for the same thing. And then before, kind of in conjunction with the Low Code Cafe topic of notifications, we are using a Time UTC field, and there's a known issue with that. So we're going to do the workaround for that. So we'll learn something about a known issue and a workaround. So these hot fixes that are available for you that have happened since the last time we got together, there's 4 having to do with workflow actions failing to retrieve a data source. This was somewhat of a cosmetic error when you were trying to do something in workflows or some of these other products. Trying to open up certain actions would give you a little red error message, and you could click close and go on your way. But that's kind of annoying, so we fixed that. And so those are all the releases that you deal with that. We've done several things in Page Builder, and probably the most notable is that when you have submenus, I mean, the menu is now usable on mobile devices. When you had a complex menu structure before that wasn't rendering well, now it renders well, and it's very clickable and usable. So hopefully you'll find that a big enhancement. We have an optional product that very few people install. It's called URL Adapter, but it was making it impossible to, when you had that installed and turned on, the configuration menu wasn't loading. So that's fixed for the one client that we know of that's using that. And then, and was on 126. So that's no longer a blocker. We've done some enhancements with tooltip descriptions, and so if you want to see more about tooltips, you can look for that one. There was in our new workflow user interface, there was a problem being able to edit the conditions of a field. It was just hard to edit, so that's a fix in workflows. So that's when you had a branch, an exclusive gateway where you're trying to go on one path on one condition and another path on another condition, and those weren't very editable, so we fixed that. I mentioned the page builder. So the other things that happened with page builder is that now by default, you can put tokens in the page titles and in the meta tags. So when you're loading the page builder will serve up those tokens, whatever you have. And then there was a thing with Page Builder. Oh, I'm sorry, an enhancement to Page Builder, and we're going to see this today if we have time to do all that I have planned. In the user area of the menu, there's now a pane, so you can put content up into that top pane, and it's hidden until you. It's like for user profile kinds of things. And then in listings, sometimes it was showing instead of showing buttons at the top of the listing, if you've added buttons to your listing, sometimes it was showing the dot 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 as if it were a mobile menu instead of realizing that it had both of the space to render the buttons. So that issue's been fixed. I'm going to just mention it here and then we'll dive into it in just a second, that the Time UTC field had the time was changing during edits, and that's actually a known issue that we have to fix. But if you are using the Time UTC field, this is going to be good information for you to know. And I just hit okay, let's stay on the right page here. So we'll show you the workaround for that until we get it fixed. I will mention we do another event every week. It's on Fridays at the same hour. It's the Low Code Campfire, and that's more of a meeting conversational format. So rather than a teaching thing like we're doing today, you'd sit and talk with the low code community, the Planet Ant community, and I just highly encourage you to get involved with that one. Because we have representatives from our company and people who use the product, clients who use the product all day long. And so if you have issues or confusions, just general, how do I do this questions, you'll find that you'll get some good answers there. We have links for this episode. Patrick, is always good to put them on the chat, but you can register in advance for the Low Code Campfire. You can get to our YouTube channel, go to the community portal. Community portal is another place where I see great answers to questions. So you get help not only from us, but from our team. And I want to do a quick shout out and thank you for those that help answer those questions. It's great that your perspective can help other low coders. And then there's our feedback form. So if you want to tell us what you thought about this event or anything else that you see, you're welcome to give us that feedback. So now we go into the hands-on low coding, and as I mentioned, the first thing we're going to deal with is this. Well, I'll tell you what we've been doing, and then we'll deal with the known issue. So 2 weeks ago, and if you missed it, it's Low Code Cafe episode 167. You can play that back. We knew that this was going to take at least 2 sessions. Part 1 was the foundational activities, all the entities and subscription kinds of things that we're going to need so that we could do automated notifications. So part 2 today, we're going to get into how to actually deliver the notifications on the email channel. And last thing we'll get into, if we have time, we'll be putting an alert count in the header of a page, the number of alerts waiting that they haven't acknowledged. So what we did was we said that in our part 1 and what were the goals that we were trying to do. First of all, we created a simple contact system just so that we would have something to work with. We created an activity log so that every time that the contact system a change happened, that we logged those things so that there was data tracking what changes had been made. We started down the path of creating a notification subscription. So the idea would be that users can sign up and say, I want to get notified when something happens in the activity log. That could be anywhere from I want to know right away to I want to subscribe and get a summary every day or every week or every 3 weeks. Um, and then we kind of trailed off at this point. We didn't really finish everything we wanted to do. The idea was that as activity was taking place, that we would take a look at the subscriptions that were there and build notifications. And so the notifications are going to be a data structure that entries are made to as activity happens, and then from there we deliver them either instantly or every day on specific days or every week. So that's our goal for today, is all about delivering the notifications. Um, so to do that, we're going to need to finish out to create a new this notification entity, and then also there's going to be a state for it. And so let's get on to our system. Some of that I just talked about, we'll be touching on seeing it at work in our system, but we are picking up exactly where we left off. So I'm going to go into uh, um, our entities, and we have a notification entity. I'll just review that really quickly, that we started to build, and we didn't do anything more than put a GUID there, and a unique identifier that but this is going to get built out in just a second. But again, the purpose of the notifications is these are the things that are waiting to be delivered. And for those of you that know, we do kind of a copy and paste implementation. I've done it already on a prep system. And so I'm going to bring that up so that I have something to refer to here. And so, yeah. First thing that we are going to add is this notification state, the things that, so notifications are going to be either queued or sent or failed. And I'm going to add this first because we're going to need it in our notification entity. So this is a new entity, and so it's the notification state, or the plural of that notification states. I'm going to put it in the menu under notifications. It's just one of the many entities that we'll have under that for maintenance purposes. And this is going to be a pretty simple one. It just doesn't have, it has only a name. So we'll do that. It's got a name, and that is going to be the display property. And we'll save it and immediately go and populate it. So we have notification state. And so we're going to have things like queued, something is queued to be sent, something has been sent, and maybe we'll have a third one that failed. And so if we try to send it and it doesn't go, we can recognize that. And just checking, yeah, that we have one queued, two sent, three failed. So this is the notification states. So we've got that set up, and now we can work on our notification entity and finish it out. So notifications are going to be tied to, well, they'll be joined to subscription. And that is an entity on our system. So we will say that it's tied to notification subscription. And I'm going to make this field be filterable. We're also going to tie it to activity. So we can get back to the activity log that it came from. a notification gets created, we're going to know who is going to ultimately get it. And that was that is a user of the system. And again, we'll make that filterable. Every notification is going to have a status, and that is the notification state that we just created a minute ago. And yes, we'll make that filterable as well. We're going to get sent on we'll record the date sent. And so that's going to be a date and time. And we'll allow that to be sortable so that we can put them in order if we want to. If an error happens, we'll have an error message. So we can go back and debug what happened. We'll make that be a large text. And the idea here is that notifications, not only are they going to be emailed, but they can be acknowledged. We'll show them on the screen, and so you can acknowledge them. You can basically clear your notification list, and so then you'll have less. So we'll do date acknowledged. Treat that as a date and time. Yep. That'll be a date and time. And we'll also has been acknowledged. And that could also just be we could just do it based on the date, but I'm going to do this as a Boolean. So it'll be a way to flag whether or not it's been done. And
Dale, I don't know if it'll matter later, but acknowledge has 2 Ks in it there. So
this is why I love you being secretary. Yep, because it might. So we'll try and keep it matching. And we remain with our ID as the display name. But that's all of our additions to the notification table. So just a reminder, we started the notification table last time, and now we're just adding on to it all these new fields and features. So that sets us up to be able to start building notifications as activity takes place. I'm gonna looking for my slide that I didn't. Give me just a second. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and do it without a slide. It's just like going without a net here. We'll go on to this in just a second. So now on to the date and time issue that I mentioned earlier. So first, let me show you how we're set up. We have on our notification, I said date and time, it's just the time UTC. We have a notification subscription entity. It has the digest time as time UTC. And so that's the only setup that was done, and that's something that that's an area that we have a known problem we want to work around. So if we go to this, I'm going to look at the front part of my site, look at notification subscriptions, and so we have this digest time 5 p.m. So notice if we edit the digest time, notice that this goes to 10 p.m. The reason is that when we write this is being saved in UTC, and the bug that we have going on is that when we read and repopulate this field, it doesn't pay attention to the time zone, and so it should populate it as 5 p.m., but it puts the UTC time, which is actually 10 p.m. It puts that in here instead, and so the impact that you get is that every time you edit this field, it changes by the same, whatever the difference between me and UTC time is. So that's not ideal. There's a workaround for that. And it's really in two parts. And I'm just going to do it. Hopefully it'll make sense to you. But in our notification, what we need to do is to tell the form where the edit is taking place. So we're going to be changing both the form and the listing, and I'm going to get both of those open now. The form needs to know what the time difference between me and UTC is, and that's a feature that we can pass through from a listing. Listings are time aware and have a token for that. So in the button where we go to edit the form, right now we have this action that says open the form, pop up, stop execution, and we pass the subscription ID so that it knows what to open. But we're going to pass this additional token, time zone, so that we know, so the form, which doesn't know what time zone is, can get it off the query string. So the time zone is going to get passed. The query, this token, query string time zone, is available in listings, but it's not available in forms. So we're passing it to the form. That's the only change we're going to make here. So now when this form opens, the form has things like the digest time, day, and next run, and we'll see it in, it's this one that we were editing here a minute ago when we hit the edit button. This form is the one that now knows what the time is. In this form, we read the notification subscription and we put it into original. Original is the name of the token where it goes. And then what's happening now is when we get to digest time, we take the original digest time and use the ISO part of it, which is a date token that says it's in international format. So we're just displaying it, and this is the thing that's displaying incorrectly. This token, excuse me, the token is fine. It has the right information, but this digest time doesn't handle it properly. It doesn't adjust for the time zone. So someday we'll fix that. But in the meantime, the workaround is that we're going to, after we read this notification, we're going to add a context token, create an update token, and the work that it's going to do is we're going to replace that same token. So we just read it, and now we're going to replace it with a different value. And the different value is, I'm going to use this, and then I'm going to put it out on the chat as well here so that you have it in case you run into a similar circumstance. So this is kind of using several different techniques at once. We're using the date time convert token, and really the only reason that we're using it is just to try and extract the current hours and minutes. So we're using this format section to return hours and minutes. And then we're using a low-code trick. It doesn't really matter what date we have here, but we're passing this original digest time ISO, which has a value like the hours and minutes in UTC time. We're posting it in here so that it will get adjusted by this time zone. That's the offset. This is the number of minutes. So in my case, I think it's minus 300, but whatever it is, now this is going to do the adjustment that gets us back to what that time control is expecting. All right. So with those two things done, if we go now to edit this, notice now it says it's 3 a.m. and we edit it. Now it comes in at 3 a.m. So we've done a workaround to get this to go where it's so that it doesn't move around every time we edit the record. And so now I set it to 5 p.m. and it doesn't change every time we open it. So that's the workaround, and that's the known issue. So hopefully someone will find that of benefit. And it sets us up so we can succeed in on doing this, finishing out this project. So I'm going to close out those areas that I was working, and we'll go on with our plan. The plan is that we want to create notifications as activity is taking place. So looking at it from the front end, we have activity logs that are already being created. We'll open up activity logs, and we'll also go to contacts and make a change. So I've put my address in here. Let's say that I change my address, and this is something that's going to result in an activity being created. So if I refresh, I see the address was changed from was changed to 13012 St. Orleans Way. So that's all what we handled last week. Activity logs are being created. So the next step that we want to accomplish is that notifications get created so that these notifications are going to be based on the subscriptions, and then we can finally deliver them. So we'll be looking at subscriptions, and yeah. So it's kind of a multi-step process, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to talk about it first forward, and then we'll talk about it backwards. Let's see where we are. So the first step is that, I'm sorry, what we'll end up with is we're going to have an automation that says every time there's stuff going on an activity log, we want to generate the notifications for it. That's going to use a workflow that will find the subscriptions and generate them, and ultimately it's going to use a workflow that writes to it. And so the result is that all the tracked activity types are going to be generating notifications that are just waiting to be delivered. So oftentimes when you have this kind of structure, this is going to call this, is going to call this. It's easier to write it backwards, to write the last thing first, and then and that keeps us from having to have a bunch of placeholders and things like that. So that's what we're going to do. Let me find that. Working space. So this is going to be a workflow. It's a new one, and we're going to call it put the name. It's going to be called generate notification for subscription and activity log. This is going to take two inputs. The first input is going to be the subscription. Which is linked to a subscription record. So that gives us all the values from the subscription, and then the activity. And that is linked to the activity log. This is going to be a really simple workflow. All it's going to do is create a record. So if you pass it those two things, it's going to be able to create a notification for you, and the So now it's just a question of filling in the blanks. So you're going to, this is the place where it gets its new unique identifier. So we're going to use the GUID new core token to return a unique identifier. The subscription ID comes from that subscription record. The activity that it relates to, again, comes from the activity record. So those are going to be the IDs of those things that come in. Who's it going to go to? Well, we'll go ahead and pull that out of the subscription. Notify. Everything gets status 1. And if you remember back on our statuses, 1 was the same thing as queued. And I'm going to just make a note here to remind me when I come back in what that means. But status 1 equals queued. And so this is creating a queued notification. We don't have yet a date sent or an error message or that it's been acknowledged or the date. So we don't need any of that. We're going to leave those blank. And the output, we'll go ahead and get it. It's going to create a record that's going to have an ID. So we've got it here. And if we want to, we can output that. Sure, so let's go ahead and do that. The output is, nope, patient ID, and we'll output it here. So one of the great things about doing things as workflows is that you can save them and test them. You can see if they make sense and do what you expect. And here on 126, we also have these, when you save and test, you can, it shows you drop downs of the records. So if I want to create a notification that is linked to me getting instant messages on everything, and I want to link it to some particular record, and we run this, it's going to create a notification ID. It says it created notification ID 1. And if we look here in our notifications listing now, we can see it's got an ID. It's tied to a particular subscription and activity, and it's sitting here queued, ready to go. So this, again, was that third step in the process. If we build something to call this every time some activity happens, this is going to get built automatically, and so it's very easy to follow workflow. So that's our first workflow in this chain. We've done this. So now we're going to do this. This is probably the toughest thing that we're going to do, one that generates notifications. So we know that in this case, what we're doing is we're saying we know an activity log has happened. We want to go find out what subscriptions apply and then generate all those that apply. I say is the most difficult because this has to do with some SQL that I think we can start and take a look at. Let's see, I don't have the SQL console turned on yet, so I'm going to go turn that on. So we can just kind of begin the process of understanding this, but then in the interest of time, I'm going to use my prepared SQL. So we go to SQL console, and the idea is that we're going to be pulling things out of notification subscription. So we have these subscriptions that tell us whether or not how often they're supposed to be delivered, what they're subscribed to, so and who to notify. So we've got users to notify, and they're subscribed. Are they subscribed to all contacts or only specific contacts or things like that? So we would need to every time an activity happens, we say, well, does this activity and for this contact really qualify? So this logic, again, is going to be very specific to your condition, whatever it is that you're tracking. And so you'll have to build that up on your own. And so again, in the interest of time, I'm going to use the one that I've already got prepared. So this is going to, again, keeping track of where we are, we're doing this, generate notifications for activity log. And so that's a new workflow. And so it's got a name. And I'm just going to copy and paste and use the name. So generate notifications for activity log. And this is going to have for its input just an activity. Some activity has happened, we want to react to it. That's all that we get. What are we going to do with it? Again, we can do a lot with SQL, and we're going to. So we're going to create a list from SQL. This is something, once we have a list, we can walk through it, iterate through it with a for each action. And so I'm just going to give a title of here's what we hope to do. We're going to get a subscription list, all the subscriptions that end up qualifying for this activity. And so the end thing that we're going to create is a subscription list. And so I'm going to call that my list name, subscription list. So that's what we'll be able to work with. That's going to be the result. The prepared SQL is this. Show it to you. And kind of walk through it. We have, I just want to, the main thing that I'm returning is a distinct, a one only, the notification subscription ID that qualifies for this activity. So with this, I'm going to be able to call that workflow we just built a minute ago. And I need not only to look at the subscription, but all the specific contacts that were joined by way of a list of specific contacts, a list of specific activities. So I can use these in my filtering. And again, your mileage may vary. You're going to need to look at what you're doing and build a SQL query that matches your subscription rules so that you can return the records that you need. But in my case, I gave the ability to say I want to subscribe to all contacts. So if they said they want to do all contacts, we'll do that. Or that their contact has been found in this this SC list, the specific contact list. Additionally, I'm filtering on they either signed up for all activities or it's on the activity list. And so that's what the SQL takes care of for me. And so now I have a couple of things that I need to bind in here, the contact ID and the activity IDs, activity type ID. So let's get those bound in. Activity type ID is coming from our activity record. It's the type field. So whatever type of activity they was on the activity record, they could have subscribed to that, and that's what that was about. And then the other one we have to bind in is the contact ID. And this is, again, activity records, the contact. We're going to get a subscription list and yeah. So, and that's all we have here. So with that, we save. I like to save and test and know what I'm getting a little bit. So we've got this subscription list. Before I finish up my work here, if I just intermediate want to create a debug step, I can see, for example, the subscription list count and see if it returns anything, because when you do a load SQL, one of the things that it creates is the count. Surely it, oh, the help desk isn't showing up very well here. That's unfortunate. So let's save and test and see if this thing is doing something. So if I want to focus on this number one thing, Dale Warner was added. This is finding one subscription that qualifies for that one. And so at least it's doing something. We'll pick something else. Maybe we only have one subscription. Let's see what our subscriptions are. Global done. Subscriptions. Let's go ahead and get that. Okay, Patrick, it's set up to watch for changes on his contact record. That's what the subscription that we set up. And so Patrick was added here. And so let's do a change to his record. So we go, we'll actually create some data here that we will change. So if this worked as intended, now if we find that Patrick's address was changed, it didn't. Actually, two activity types. Status change and email change. So it didn't qualify. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So this is good. Let's change Patrick's email address. So we go to contacts and we'll change Patrick's email address. That's what his subscription was watching for. Test. Email address was changed, and now we're getting two. So I'm being notified, Patrick is being notified, the rules are being followed. And so this this first step, we're correctly identifying the subscriptions where records are being changed. Now that we have that, what are we going to do with it? Well, this is a pretty simple thing. We're going to say for each of those that we find, we want to change the, we want to write a record. So we'll, for each subscription list item, and again, that's the list we created a little while ago. Subscription list, we want to do something, and the thing that we want to do is execute a generate notification. Generate a notification for the subscription and for the activity log. So we pass up those things now. So those are going to come from two different places. We got the subscription list, the one that we just found that it qualifies, and then we're going back to our activity that was being passed in here in the first place. We'll get out a notification ID. We really don't care about that for this purpose, so we'll not save it. And that's it. So now when we run one of these, it's going to create two notifications. So let's see how that works. We will do a test. And we'll pick this record that we just did a moment ago. It gives us back a 2, which again was just a debugging thing. But now if we look at our notifications, we should have 2 more records. One for the Dale to get instant notification and one to watch for changes on his record. And so these notifications are now queued and ready for delivery. All right, where are we? We've done these 2 things now. So this is done, but now we need to do it automatically. And so we can run an automation that's going to do that for us. So we go to automation. So every time this activity is happening, it automatically is generating them. Name, prepared system for some of the details to keep us moving along. when we write records, they have to happen in the context of a user. So in the last system in the last episode, I created a user to put here. We're going to be triggering based on when records get inserted into the activity log. So that's a database trigger on database insert for activity log. So anytime something gets added to activity log, we're going to get all the fields from activity log, including the ID, which I think is probably the only thing that we need. And I am going to well, the action that we're going to do is to run that workflow we just created. We're going to pass it the activity that is coming into us, which is just ID. And that's it. Save and close. So now every time activity is happening, this job should pick it up and create notifications. So we look at our notifications. We currently have 3 of them in here. We go back to contact, and let's mess with Patrick's record a little bit more. We can change him to a client. Oh, he's on. We can change him to a lost client. Sure, why not? So if that's working, we now should have more notifications happening. So I get an instant notification on that change, and Patrick does as well. And those are queued waiting for delivery. A different type of change will get a different result. So if I just changed this to 200, this the rules of notification are different, and so I'll get notified, but Patrick doesn't. So we're obeying our subscription rules and getting notifications. Okay, since this is a kind of a topic break, I'll say this is a great time. If you have any questions, be happy to entertain them. Patrick, if you noted anything that I've skipped, that'd be great. And I got to turn the fan on. It's getting warm in here.
It's all looking good to me so far.
Good. So the next task that we have to do, and I'm looking, we have 10 minutes. There's no way we're going to finish today. So it'll either be a part 3 recorded or act live. We'll decide on that. But the next task is that notifications are going to happen based on the subscription rule. And so what we're going to do is to say, when should a subscription be delivered? It'll be the next run. So we'll create a workflow, and we'll start on that right now. That we can point it to a subscription, and it'll automatically figure out when it should next be run. Once we have that in place, we can create an automation so that every time a subscription gets added, or when some things get updated on a subscription, that it just automatically runs and recalculates this, so it will stay maintained when it should next run, and so we'll then verify that it's all working. So that's the next target, and so we're going to be paying attention to subscriptions, and so we'll get to that here and take a look at it. Again, the goal is we've got a 5 p.m. Daily, and so the digest day for this, the next runtime for this should be 5 p.m. today. And if we had a weekly one, let's see, I'm getting emails immediately, so that will never get our next runtime. Since we didn't do one today, let's go ahead and add on get every contact, any activity, he'll get that, and it'll happen on a weekly. It's the email channel. That's where we're going to do the delivery, and the time that this is going to happen, we're going to give it at 4 p.m. And that's going to happen on Fridays. He's going to get summarized of what happens for the week. And so that's his. So for Bogdan, the next run date should be the 16th at 4 p.m. So we have samples of all the different ones that we are anticipating. Let's write some workflow. The workflow is going to be called compute next notification time. And for input, it's going to have, it's going to be the subscription. We're going to pass it a subscription and it's going to compute. So that is, of course, of type subscription. The process is going to be a little bit involved. We're going to take a branch. We're going to branch one way for instant and another way for daily and another way for weekly. And it occurs to me I want to use our new view for this. So I'm going to save this, and we have this button here for new. Go to the new UI. I think we should be showing off the new product. So we'll just switch over to the new UI. So we're going to branch in 3 different ways, and I'm just going to build that out. And I like to build out a kind of a template of what I'm going to do before I actually do the work. That's a personal preference. It does seem to keep me out of trouble, so I'm going to do that. And so say it keeps me out of trouble. We'll see. I'm going to refresh and do this a little differently. So the first thing I'm going to add is my exclusive branch, and I like to use a create updates tokens as kind of a placeholder. So this is going to be the instant branch, and so that'll be a placeholder, and then it will join up to an end block over here. And so this is the beginning of what we need to do. So I'm going to do another branch with another create update token. This one is going to be for my daily branch. And we'll do another one. So these placeholders just let me build out this branch structure, and then I can go back in and fill the details. So we'll merge, all these are going to merge. We got 3 different paths. We're going to need to set some conditions here, but we got 3 different paths. Let's space this out a little bit. And so what are these conditions? Well, the instant condition, remember we have a subscription. So the instant subscription is that the frequency code equals 1. And that's instant equals 1. Again, that comes from, if we look at our frequencies, 1 means instant. So in code, we're saying that we're using the ID of 1. Using the ID is useful. If we change these names, it'll still continue to work as we expect. So we've got the branch there. I've got another branch here that this would be for the daily. And so going to be very similar. The subscription frequency is 2. And this third branch is the weekly. It's the subscription frequency 3. So we've got our branching logic in place. All the 3 conditions are covered. And if I put an end on this, we can save it. And so Again, like to save along the way so we don't lose any work. So now we have some logic to do based on which of these it is. So let's make a little bit more room. So along the instant path, what we need to do is to say on the instant path, there is no next run time. That happens immediately, and so we're going to make sure there's no next run time. And so this is a partially update the subscription. So partially update the notification subscription to say that for the subscription ID, that we are going to change the next run to be a blank value. And I'm just going to put that over here. So that path, if they come down the instant path, that's going to update it immediately. The next, and that's the only thing that we need to do. If they come down the daily path, we are going to use a function, and this is a prepared function kind of beyond the scope of what we're doing today, but I'll make sure this is available to you to look at it. I'm just going to export it from my other system, and we'll import it over here. Actually, I'll build it. It's a JavaScript, so we're going to do execute JavaScript on the server. The function is a copy and paste, and I'll review all of it so at least you can see it. But the function is the get next time based on a target time, and so it does the work to split it all up, and then if the day has already passed, it sets it to tomorrow, but otherwise it just returns the target date based on today's date. So nice little JavaScript function. We just got to add some stuff to make it, to link it. We need to pass some variables into that. The first one is a string called target time. You can see it, target time being used in the function, so we'll pass it in. And what we're going to pass in is the digest time off of our subscription. So if we picked 5 o'clock, then the answer is going to be 5 o'clock today. And so that's our daily processing. When we get a result, I'm just going to copy and paste. I'm going to export this so that I can import it and speed things along. When we get this answer, we got to store the answer someplace, and that answer is going to get stored in next run. So when we get the answer, we set next run to, set it to next run, and so now we'll have that. Now I'm going to save that much work. Because we're coming up on the top of the hour, I'm going to test these two paths and try to respect your time. I'll let you go if you want, but you're welcome to hang around. I'm going to finish this out with the weekly logic as well, but let's test and make sure we've got good work going on here so far for instant and daily. So on the instant subscription is, well, let's work on the daily one. The number for that is number 2. If I come in and run my workflow for number 2, it does its work very quickly. We refresh here, and we see that it's now set to be today at 5 p.m. So this works very well. In order to demonstrate that the other one works, I guess we'll pop a next run in for this one. We should see it get cleared when we run it for number 1. So we'll run it for number 1, take a look at it, and the next run gets cleared. That's according to our rules. Instant delivery doesn't have a next run time. And so then, as I mentioned, we'll finish the weekly one in a moment. the next step on our map is that we want to run that automatically as subscriptions are changed. And so that will be the next step that I'm going to do. I'm going to drop that in there just so that we can see this running automatically. So this is a new job. And putting this in the default namespace. Get a name for it here. The name is going to be calculate subscription next run. Again, it needs a context to run in, so I'm going to give it a user. Everything that happens will be according to that logging user. And this one runs, the trigger is when we put something into the database, the notification subscription database, table rather. So when something gets added, we want to immediately compute the next runtime. But also, we'll add another trigger that is when certain columns on this same table update notification subscription. So if they change the notification subscription, either the frequency, the digest time, the digest day, or the last run, anytime that there's a change in any of these things, we're going to want to do the work. And the work that we want to do is to just run that workflow we were just talking about. Next notification time, and the only thing we're going to need to pass it is the ID of the subscription that's coming from either of these two. So this subscription is when added or changed, updated, we're going to get the ID, and so that's going to run.
So, before you save there, oh, too late, I didn't catch you.
You're going to have to talk faster than that.
That's okay. It's just the name. You didn't. That's all. The name of the job is
flawed. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So we'll fix the name of the job. Very cosmetic, but it would have run, but it would have looked funny. So if we've done the right thing, then now as we change subscriptions, if I change the subscription to be for 6 o'clock and update, this next runtime is going to change for us. Now, it takes a brief amount of time for the job to run, so I actually have to refresh this listing to see the change, but it did the work. And if I change this for, oh, we haven't done the weekly yet, so we got to go back in and do that. But when we change this, it will automatically adjust that.
But if you were to change the frequency for the first one, it would
sure. So
it would update you.
If you were doing weekly on Tuesday, oh.
No, I meant, yeah.
We can't do weekly yet. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. If you like for the first one, if you, yeah, or the change, yeah, that's
right.
fine.
Thanks for. Yeah. So yeah, well, let's change this to daily at 4 a.m. will be fine. So when we refresh this, now it's going to go to tomorrow at 4 a.m. It advances the day because 4 a.m. is already passed today. All right. For those of you that need to leave, we certainly understand. You're welcome to watch this on replay, but I'm going to keep going. We will go to our workflow and fill in the work for doing weekly. The weekly is has an extra step to it that we need to do. We set up our system so that we had notification days, and so you can choose the notification day by a drop down. It has an ID of 1 through 7, but the routine that we need actually needs this name. The pre-written JavaScript that's going to do the work needs the actual name of the day. So we're going to need to read that. So that is a read notification day action. The the thing that we want to look for is the notification, excuse me, subscription digest day. That's an integer. And the thing that we're going to get out is notification day. That'll have all the fields, which the only one we care about is the name of the day, but that's what we're going to get out of it. Notification day. So we've got the notification day. The next, again, we have a prepared JavaScript. Let me make some here. And slightly different script. I'm going to drop it in here, but it's the same pattern. This is, it's called get next day time. It has logic that takes the target day and does the computation, but the end result is returning a target date. So we've got to pass it a couple of things. We've got to pass it the target time. That's going in as a string. And that's going to be the coming from the subscription. And it's the digest time. The other thing we need to pass in is the target day. And that one is coming from notification day. And it's the name of the day. Again, we have the name field here. So we're passing in this expected value. And as with the other one, we want to, the output we're going to get is next run. So this is going to give us the whenever it's supposed to next run. And because it's the same thing, I'm just going to copy and import this existing action and paste it in the right spot so that we can just look, we're updating the subscription in question to the next run, same action as before. And so now if we save this, because that automation is already running, we should be able to edit this. And let's say that we change both down to 3 in the afternoon instead and refresh. We're now computing the week. And it's doing 8:16 at 3 p.m. So doing exactly what we expect. One last little cosmetic thing, because keeps me from having to look at a calendar. If we go into this next runtime and change the format to include the day, not that one, that has the time as well, and we'll convert it to my time. It's already there. So now we get this nice visual confirmation that this is happening Friday, August 16th at 3 p.m. And we change the day. And this is kind of another interesting thing here. Let's say that we change it to Monday and somebody jacks with the next runtime even, we set it back to July. Even still, the logic is smart enough to say, find the next Monday that has not yet passed. And so now when we refresh, it goes to Monday, August 19th. So this is automatically computing. So where are we in our overall project? We have computed the next runtime. And so the only thing left to do was the thing that we said we were going to do, which is all about delivering the notifications. This is another of those 3-step things. We'll have an automation that looks around and says, is there anything to deliver? We'll have another workflow that takes a look at our the way that we set this up. There can be different channels. So far, we only will have email, but you could set up the notify on Teams or by text or different channels. So we've built the structure to support different channels. So it'll find the channel and then call our email notifier to actually deliver the email. And then in the final piece, excuse me, that's not the final piece. In the final piece, there is the, I don't have the slide ready yet. There is the notification bell that will show what notifications the user has but hasn't acknowledged yet. So it's a nice on-screen version of, hey, things are going on, and you can click here and see what's going on. So those are all the things that are left to do. And we'll determine whether that's a part 3, or we'll record it and put it out on YouTube, and it'll be part 3, but without taking up a live session. All right, thank you for joining. If you have any questions, since we've gone long, I'll just encourage you to take a look at and come to Low Code Campfire 2 days from now, and we'll take them all up. Happy low coding, and we will see you next time.